is basically, or any regional coordination. It doesn't have to be Main Street, but it can be. But like the advantages of coordinating regionally are that, sometimes if you're coordinated, you can take advantage of, you've got minimal, you've got modest resources. You're trying to spread them out, and so if you work together, there's opportunities to take advantage of that. I think it's worth looking at some of the survey responses. Should individual communities within the Mackenzie River work together to improve the region's economy? So we got really a lot of yes, and also sometimes, and I think we've got a lot of comments like this one on the right, so both. Each community has unique needs and resources to develop, but can also learn from each other and can benefit from collaboration on larger projects. So I think any effort to do regional collaboration would reflect the distinct qualities of each place, but also try to, kind of take advantage of opportunities to work together.
How do you facilitate that? Because I've literally been on the tourism committee and in the chamber for 15, 20 years, and it's like church. It's the same 10% of people doing 110% of the work and getting the other 90% to the table. How do you get them to? 71% said yes, but you don't see 71% of the people here.
Well, it is interesting, and I'm not sure I have a great answer for that question immediately, but I think some of it will be covered in a few of these slides. And so this one, how would you like to be involved with or contribute to activities, organizations, and events? There were almost 80 people who said that they wanted to do stuff. And, some people in a more intensive way. And so this, I think it's, there's a step from people saying yes to actually signing up and doing it. But sometimes I think people are not sure what they should do. Like they want an opportunity to volunteer, but they're not sure. And so if you're creating kind of more concrete opportunities, then that is one way of drawing people, if that's what's holding them back. So, but I thought that this was, I don't know, does this surprise you, or does this seem, out of 183 responses, almost 80 people said that they wanted to volunteer for things.
People say anything.
Give us a list.
Yeah.
Give us a
It's a
list.
list of them saying,
So, yeah, it's surprising. It's nice they're saying that, but for those of us who've been plugging away for years, it's like, we'll show up. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
remember my
that's
mother's
true.
comment, they want an engraving. So, but no, people want to be asked.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think sometimes it's that they don't know about opportunities also, because when we had the Christmas party here, I was talking to several people I'd never met before, and he said, oh yeah, we're new here, we'd like to get involved. I did not put down their names, unfortunately, but how do you get that information to them if these opportunities are there?
Yeah. Well, okay, so I think that's one thing, and I'll come back to the Main Street structure, but so I am going to, I think we can circle back, because I do think the Main Street regional approach might offer something here. But again, it's another form of people volunteering, right? I don't think you're going to get away from, there are going to be a few people who do a lot of the heavy lifting, and then, but how do you carry other people along? I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this slide and return again to some themes that I talked about earlier. So a typical Main Street program is usually a standalone nonprofit, and its mission is centered directly on a particular commercial district, or developing Main Street. And the leadership structure can be housed within local government. It could be a chamber of commerce. It could be another nonprofit. There's different ways that those can be structured. There's some where the Main Street organization combines with the chamber. There's some where they sit within the city. They're standalones. It's different variations of how they're structured. Again, Main Street has over 100. They're organizationally at very different levels. There's some that have staff of multiple people and do a ton of stuff and bring in lots of money. There's a lot that are just volunteers and volunteer run. some of the activities, I'll get to some of the activities they do, but it's often volunteer-led. It's often, you know, local people who care about their town, so it's, you know, this you all type. But there are kind of allocated activities, and so you form committees, and then you try to draw people into particular committees that are of interest to them. So maybe that's one way of getting more people to volunteer. But particularly for smaller communities, like, you know, you're a string of, you know, a number of small communities, it's often hard to organize at that level. So if you have kind of one organizing body that's doing some of the admin work and some of the, you know, the support of the structure, then it's maybe easier for these smaller communities to get involved. Because like not every, you know, individual communities would be able to have a Main Street organization. So that's kind of one of the advantages. This diagram on the left is a diagram from Oregon Main Street. So they you know, originally it was just one individual communities that could be involved. And now they have a regional hub model where there's multiple communities that work with the regional hub. And so that's the model that would work, I think, best for this area if you're interested in it. So there'd be one Main Street, but all of the different communities could, you know, be involved. And let's see. I think, again, I'll just use a couple of these examples. The Oregon Frontier Chamber, I'm going to show some of the projects that they do, because I think that's particularly relevant, and then the Wallowa Chamber of Commerce, too, is one of the other examples that are good. And so I'm just going to go through some examples of projects that they do and also how they're structured, and that might give you more ideas for whether this is a good approach for you. So this is a project that the Frontier Chamber did, and it's called the Imagine Your Business Here campaign. And so they had a problem because they had a lot of empty storefronts, and they couldn't get people to be in them. So what they did is they started marketing those storefronts and kind of, you know, even having, I think, high school students develop business plans for potential businesses that could be in those storefronts. And you know, the idea is they had like these visits where people could come and tour the buildings. So this whole project inspired entrepreneurship, and it has resulted in a number of buildings actually that were owners were trying to sell. It's resulted in those sales going through and entrepreneurs being interested in starting businesses in some of those spaces. So that's one example of what that Main Street organization did, and that was kind of a multi-community project. Another project, Arlington is one of the participating communities in the Frontier Chamber, and they did this thing called the Pop. So they had this commercial, they wanted to have more vibrancy downtown. They had an empty lot. They also have a big artisan community. And so what they did is they got these, you know, temporary garden structures, and they have this pop-up market, you know, seasonally, where they have artists, you know, have these, you know, sell their stuff out of these little garden spaces. And I'm so happy to share this stuff with you, and if you're interested, because I know you're taking pictures. And anyway, this is when it started, I think they had to kind of hunt around and find artisans who were willing to do it. But then once it started, people were really interested. Like the people who weren't already involved, they really wanted to be in those spaces. So this is a growing, you know, it initially had a small start and then it grew.
So Amy, did those structures go away seasonally, or do they stay there and just vacant?
That is, I would have to ask about that. I'm not sure what the answer is. A little bit more about how the Frontier Chamber works. They found funding, I think, through Business Oregon ROI funding to pay for part-time people in all of these different communities to be the ambassadors in those communities for Main Street. So they were able to, one thing about volunteering, if you can actually pay people, it then helps with participation. and which isn't always possible, but they were able to do that. So they have these 9 ambassadors that were working on, projects in their communities, but then the Frontier Chamber was able to be this kind of, conduit for information, communication, fundraising, and then it helped all of those communities kind of with different projects. So that's how, Arlington is one of those, that's how the pop happened. So then I just wanted to list some other projects, because there's a lot of creative, interesting projects. This is a youth entrepreneurship program in Emmett, Idaho, where I think yearly kids have a kids-only bazaar in a local park. And so that brings people downtown, and it's an event, and it's bringing entrepreneurship skills to kids.
We do that at the school.
Oh, nice, okay. And then Freewater Square is in a way similar to the Arlington project, but it's I think more permanent. This is an empty lot in Milton Freewater, and they, I think, painted a mural there, and they have, again, sort of pop-up food trucks, and they've got events, and again, it's just a way of invigorating and enlivening this downtown area. La Crosse, the 200 and some person town in eastern Washington, they're the ones with the table. They also have they restored these historic rock houses that are now a museum, and also they use as, to rent out to tourists. So that's sort of a cultural project that they've done. And then I just listed some other activities that Main Street organizations do. They do business support, property owner outreach, buy local campaigns, marketing. A number of them have done energy efficiency retrofits, and especially saving money for businesses. Other events, street beautification is quite common and popular, and community spaces. I was hearing with the third space, historic revitalization. And you saw some of the transforming the vacant spaces, food truck pods. I mean, there's a lot more, but these are some of the things that they do.
And where does the money come from for that?
So, I mean, each organization does its own fundraising, and so it's a nonprofit that needs to do grant writing and bring in funds. There are some, for some of the bigger projects like historic renovation or historic revitalization, there are grants through Oregon Main Street, the Oregon Main Street program. And those are pretty significant. Those are kind of $200,000 grants to do, restorations and renovations of historic structures. And quite a few are given out. They have a big budget. I'll be on the jury this year to look at all those applications. And so that's a big program. I don't know, there's other ARPA, I don't know, I think you all accessed ARPA funding, but there's OCF funding. I think some of the traditional sources of funding, yeah.
I think one of the things that helps for a lot of us is just knowing what projects are likely to get funded by different groups. We have models.
Right.
Instead of us trying to, we want to do this, this is going to work, and then go to the computer, hit things for a long time. If we have an idea, okay, these are the kind of things that get funded, and here's some pathways for those, and we can see examples, it makes it a lot easier to do these things. But some of us sometimes just feel like we're grasping in the dark, trying to figure out what, and we're not doing a very good job of it. And being there mostly volunteer based, it's hard to spend the time and energy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, sorry, I silenced it, but apparently it didn't silence my notifications. I had a response to that, and then I got away.
My point was is that please, by all means, if you guys have these things, help get them to us. That's what my.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
There are fun places, in fact, I think one's coming up in Eugene, where you can go meet the funders. And
Oh,
you can-
yeah.
You can,
Beg,
yeah.
I don't know what I want to go and pitch an idea, I want to
That's
know
the word.
what models are already created that we can say, this is something we need, and here it's kind of prepackaged, we can just rework it and say,
Right.
we know this has got success behind it, that people do well with it, we know the funders like it, so that's probably better than coming up with something.
refine the wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, for what's really important to Oregon Main Street and what they look for is that, like when they have the historic revitalization applications, they are really strongly looking for community support. So it's not so much what type of project it is, it's has the community had input and said that this is a priority for them. I think the other thing I would say is like, if you can have a Main Street organization that has a little bit of a paid staff, that person can be grant writing. And so if you have somebody who has more time and capacity for grant writing, then that's going to be helpful.
So maybe,
Yeah.
what you're saying, and I get it, because we find that with all the different nonprofits that we've been working with, is that if we can correlate those nonprofits together, like a coalition of nonprofits that are supporting each other, and we have several in the community that are working that way, presenting these ideas to the funders, and that's a lot of leverage to the organization.
I think so. I mean, I know like funders don't like to be getting lots of applications from the same area that seem uncoordinated. So that's like, why aren't they talking to those other people? Why are we getting two of these?
Hey, I'll be the first one to not be shy and say, since the fire, there's more organizations working toward the same goal. And as an outsider-ish looking in, that's been my comment all along. It seems like we're all working toward the same thing. Why the heck are we not all on the same team?
So to answer that, I agree with you. We've got the MCLT, which I think, and community track, all kind of. So under this concept of organization, I can see where some of the chamber is taking the lead. Those other organizations maybe coming in and partner and having that leverage to what the chamber's trying to do.
At least know everything that's going on. I don't even know until, because sometimes that stuff comes through on Facebook
Right.
2 days ago.
I mean, it's funny. I can see an argument two ways. One, a Main Street organization could unite everyone, or a Main Street organization could just be yet another organization. So I think,
I would rather see it.
maybe
I
there.
would rather see it as a unifying force.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
brings all, and you're still gonna have your little whatevers and your little whatevers, but if it's the same, oh yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, how come we haven't all worked together?
well, I'm going to give a quick shout out to the wedding open house as something that you all are doing here that is very much in line with a Main Street effort. It's like an attempt to take advantage of a market opportunity in a regional way. So, Jerry, well done. But I think we can spend the last 10 minutes. Is the Main Street model a good model for the Mackenzie River? Like, what would it be able to achieve this, bringing people together? Is there an organization that should be leading this? Is there, what is or in what way can this region coordinate? Maybe that's the more important question.
Today's attendance is disappointing. And I personally talked to two people who said they were going to be here every year. So, and they would have been great contributors. So, however you get over that hump.
Well, I think the list of 80 people who said they were interested in volunteering, if I can get their contacts and give a personal invite to the next workshop. And one of the things the survey shows is the support for organizations working together. And whether it's locals helping locals or the chamber or whoever, I think a representative from each one of those organizations coming together as a group to discuss how we implement something like this would be another step in the future.
the middle part of this community has, is that we had 578 homes lost in a fire 4 years ago. Less than a third of those have been rebuilt. There's a lot of stress in the valley because of that. Whatever step these folks are at, wherever these families are, they might have filled out the application with all good intentions, sitting after a long day with their phones, and,
Sure.
you know, their intentions are great. But I believe that that's a huge part of why there is this disconnect. And we have people that say, oh, sure, I'm gonna be there, and then crickets, nobody shows up. There's a lot of vision, but there's a lot of stress too. And we have to be very cognitive of that. And until there's some true healing of getting our people back into homes, I really feel for the people who are the potential business owners, the potential work staff and all of that. We still have a really big issue with trying to get the people who lost everything and they're still living in an RV waiting for the homes to be finished or waiting for it to be granted. So that's, in my opinion, one of the biggest stumbling blocks that we've got in the middle part of the river.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people lower river who have forgotten about the fire because they're maybe not reminded every fire season like we might be in the upper river and the reaches closer to the national forest. So, yeah.
I think too, just the reality that you've got people in the river, we got retired folks that don't want to travel, on dark, don't want to travel in adverse weather. You've got younger families that have kids in schools, and they're working. I think I can see families right now, we work at the river and the kids are in school. Right now, they're attending a basketball game in Mackenzie, Florida. And so I think that's always been an issue in Mackenzie is how do you find that time where you get the most people do the most good to that event. So figuring that out, I think it's always been a problem. And, you know, we just have to be more creative on how we find this time.
Food, it's just like at church, we don't food now.
But again,
Don't
the
tell
county
me.
tells you you can't do that.
Don't tell me.
You know, our towns are also filled with people, and part of the human problem is we all have personalities, and we all easily get offended at certain personality types or people for things that we perceive they did to hurt us, or maybe did on purpose to hurt us, and we do a good job of shunning different people and different things associated with and pushing them out. So it makes it really, really difficult.
And my guess is that that's just enhanced in this kind of the stress of the post-fire environment. Yeah.
But in truth, even pre-fire, we still have,
Oh,
we
yeah.
still have almost,
Yeah.
it just magnifies it, but it's all in
It's
there.
always been that issue.
As I look at this role of Main Street in coordinating down the valley, there is another element of coordination that I've been aware of that I wanted to have happen. And so for this community center and for the activities that go on here, it would be lovely to have a paid part-time director for this community center, for the senior center that we like to have here on Tuesdays. And we have, I think it has been said, I can't remember by whom, that maybe the person who was hired to coordinate this community center might also coordinate the Upper Mackenzie Community Center so that we didn't wind up having conflicting events, right? So that we didn't have an event at the same time. The Upper Mackenzie Community Center was having an event. And as I think about that coordinator doing those things, I'm thinking, gee, that coordinator sounds kind of like a Main Street person, you know? Mm-hmm. And so maybe that Main Street person is doing some coordination of different entities and talking to the Blue River Library and so forth. Because one reality is that we have bills to pay at this community center, like heat. When we rent out this space, we get money to pay those bills. So does the other Mackenzie Community Center, so does the Blue River Library. Are we in competition with each other for rentals? A little bit. Can we coordinate somehow? Maybe. So I see the value of coordination, and maybe giving it a name like Main Street Model is a way to hire vendors.
And I know a little bit about Coburg. Obviously, they're different than we are, but Coburg became a Main Street
Oh.
city. And they initially had their chamber as the overseeing body, organizing body. And eventually transitioned to letting Main Street, they hired staff. And the businesses unanimously agreed that it just went better, it just made more sense for them. But they found a really talented person, and they were able to draw from a talent pool in the city. So we need to be looking at where our talent pool is. There are lots of really talented people here in the valley, but hard to, they are here. Not that we aren't talented, but that particular individual, that someone could take on that role, isn't sitting here
So
tonight.
if you went under that model, Gary, and I agree with you, if you went under that model and you had fund capacity to hire a person, or a person that can work on a system, whatever it is. And then the supporting organizations, like the TRAP or the library or the community center, that would be, because they all represent different bodies of people as well. Some of those are meshed, we get that.
Well, they dissolved their chamber. There was no need for their chamber of commerce. They dissolved that.
Okay, but that may or
That's
may not work here, I don't know.
No, but
But that's a town, see, that's a town where the Oregon Frontier is several different chamber of commerces that were working together, I understand.
It wasn't several chambers of commerce, it was one chamber of commerce, the Condon Chamber of Commerce, that then decided to like serve regionally instead of just serving Condon. So I think the first part of that evolution was the Condon Chamber of Commerce decided, I think we should just serve the whole 3-county area, because it's small, it's like small population counties, right? And then after that, they thought, and let's become a Main Street organization, and then we don't, we can still be, I don't know how they kind of manage the membership aspect of the chamber and the non-membership aspect of the, we can find out, we can, set you up with a phone call. But they're working just with other, I think they have ambassadors, so I don't know how they chose the ambassadors. I think they're probably business
If
owners.
my understanding, maybe I got it wrong, when I talked to Tina Lynn from
Oh, okay, yeah.
Condon, because she was the one who's leading.
Sure.
And each one of those chambers, whether it's an ambassador or just a member of the chamber, it was kind of set, okay, if you mind, work together. However that works, I think they have.
Right.
As long as it works, if you had a representative from Cedar Flat, and Mackenzie, who was that community, you decided to have that more. And whether it's, I think, in the urban ministry, idea would be great. With a director, of course, making sure that all the animals. It'd be easier to get funding on that, I think.
Yeah. We are at time. So the next steps, we're having the second of 2 community workshops on March 13th. Ken, what's the location?
At the school.
At the school, okay.
Well, I thought it was at the,
Oh, yeah, I thought it was
I thought
at
it was at the
the Lieber.
Fire Station. I have it down for the Lieber Fire Station.
I thought we were going to have it at the school, that's why we chose that date.
Oh, maybe so. Because we did change the date once. We'll
Yeah.
check. But anyway,
Remember, I had this mass confusion.
Yeah, we wanted to get the students involved,
Well,
since they filled out so many surveys.
right, yeah. Okay, so the next workshop is on the 13th from 4 to 6. We'll confirm the location, please.
On the 13th or the 12th?
I think we shifted
I have
it.
it down.
Wow, massive.
I think we shifted it to the 13th. We initially, no,
We're
you
going to do
pushed it
all
to
the five community center between the board meeting at this time.
Okay.
We'll get back to you.
Yeah, all right. There's confusion about when and where. We are going to focus in on all of the projects, and then we'll have further discussions of maybe what a structure might look like.
Well, let me ask this group, is that going to be a problem in having it at school if we're trying to collect people in Cedar Falls?
So many people from Cedar Flat live in Oneida. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying. But we move it 15 miles upriver, you know, I mean, I just want to make sure that whatever we do, we have the best opportunity to get the diverse amount of people there.
But if we're having it in the evening, and it's essentially still in the winter, we never know what's going to happen in March. You're not going to get people from here to come here, over here, to go up there. And so you will, and that's why I got up early, so we didn't want to drive in the dark.
Well,
We can think about other times and locations.
I have no preference, you know, if the majority in the room wants it downriver, that's fine. We have enough time to reschedule.
We did.
Oh, yeah, state,
Go ahead, John.
You won't be here?
yeah, state.
All right. And then after that, we'll be completing the plan, and then it goes on to organization and implementation. So if you have thoughts, questions, feel free to contact any of us. We hope we see many of you at the next meeting. And thank you so much for your participation. We didn't make, like, feel